right, we're going to start shortly, y'all. Let me just grab me something to drink. All right, about to get it going now. About to get it going with y'all. So, screen on. So, yo. It's your boy, the insurance junkie, your fiduciary fella, the all-star advisor Alonzo Hall, your social media insurance bro and registered financial consultant. Today, we're going over, fixed and variable expenses, the Black History Month lesson, or the Black History lesson that you never got. So we're going to start with a brief excerpt from a gentleman by the name of Michael Ralph, right? And actually, before that, let me do this. I'll copy that. I want you guys to see who Michael Ralph is. So, Michael Ralph, no, let's do Dr. Michael Ralph. Dr. Michael Ralph, NYU. So, Renaissance man and professor at New York University and at Department of African American Studies in Howard University, right? He focuses on debt, slavery, and insurance. Well, this is the Black History lesson that you've never gotten, which has a lot to do with insurance, right? Everybody shuns insurance like it's nothing. Meanwhile, the reality is insurance is highly important. Why is it highly important? We're going to read a few excerpts from, and let's just look here because I need you to understand. So the Renaissance man, this is him right here. Notice this is from New York University. See, when I come with information, I don't just pull information out of my ass, right? I do the research. right? New York University, Renaissance man. When Michael Ralph teaches his popular course, Hip Hop and Politics, he often thinks of the values of people's creativity and how that creativity isn't always valued the same way. Now, we're not going to read all this, but this is Dr. Michael Ralph. Now, let's see. Michael Ralph, Howard University. Michael Ralph, professor and chair, profile type faculty, school, college, College of Arts and Sciences, department, Afro-American Studies. Email michael.ralph@howard.edu. Dr. Ralph's research integrates political science, economics, history, and medical anthropology through an explicit focus on debt, slavery, insurance, forensics, and incarceration. He is currently at work on 2 books that center on slavery, insurance, and incarceration. Right? So again, when I'm coming at angles, I'm not coming from out of my ass, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's look at the article that he wrote. So this is from Disability Studies Quarterly. And the reason I'm so passionate about this stuff is because there are a lot of people who do this. I remember being on YouTube with a guy named Taz Exclusives the GOAT. Oh, ain't nobody buying insurance from you. It's a bunch of motherfuckers that sell insurance. Cool. Well, ain't nobody worried about debating with your black ass, Mr. GOAT. But there's a reason why you call yourself the GOAT and the king of content. Very similar to why I don't even call myself an insurance guru. I call myself the insurance junkie. Because I'm obsessed with this shit. But other people, ironically enough, not in my hometown, but other people have consistently labeled me the guru on insurance. I've been called the Google of insurance. Now, that may not be my personal opinion, but that's what happens. So let me increase the screen so you guys can read along with me. And this is going to be very brief. I'm not going to be live for too long because I have things to do. Let me remove myself from the screen. So, life in the midst of death. Remember, this is written by Dr. Michael Ralph. Notes on the relationship between slave insurance and life insurance and disability. This article examines the way post-antebellum genres of disability, race, and credit debt shaped the emergence of U.S. slave insurance and life insurance industries. After all, the same period which witnessed the demise of formal enslavement saw the debut of structures that protected the privilege of people whose wealth and power threatened to come undone. This would include sharecropping and convict leasing. Excuse me. Despite a similar emphasis on institutionalizing credit-debt relations, insurance appears benign by comparison. Even though insurance agencies assign differential value to human lives, the birth of insurance is seen along with the triumph of capitalism and democracy as part of the birth of freedom. In what follows, I explore a discourse on debility that was likewise a discourse on debt, one with enduring resonance for social movement politics. So now we see 2 quotes here, both from a person by the name of Josiah C. Knott. One in November of 1847, one in May of 1847. Let's look at the first one. Lisa, what's going on? Let's look at the first one. It says, in life, we are in the midst of death, and a day or an hour may paralyze the hand which feeds the helpless. In a country like ours, where with untrammeled energies and eager grasp, we're pressing along the road which leads to fortune and greatness. We sometimes travel too fast, and great commercial convulsions are inevitable consequences, which bring ruin on individuals the most prudent and cautious. Take a person so situated, with the uncertainty of life hanging over him, and how much more cheerfully he would toil on, could he say, come what may, my life is insured, and my wife and children are sure of something to save them from want. Written by Josiah C. Knott in a book called Life Insurance at the South, May of 1847. Now let's look at November of 1847 and see what happens there. As long as the Negro is sound and worth more than the amount of the insured, self-interest will prompt the owner to preserve the life of the slave. But if the slave become unsound and there is little prospect of perfect recovery, The underwriters cannot expect fair play. The insurance money is worth more than the slave, and the latter is regarded rather in the light of a superannuated horse. Josiah C. Knott, Statistics of Southern Slave Plantation, November 1847. So this was written by the same man, 6 months apart, both talking about life insurance. Maybe this is why bliggity black folk don't value life insurance so much, because we don't understand it. New York Life was one of the first companies to have own slaves. Prudential was the first company to have rates different for black people. This is a black history lesson you never got. On August 25th, 2011, NBC, and this is something that I hear not just from black folks, from Americans, but this is Black History Month, so I'm going to focus on black folk specifically because I'm also black. On August 25th, 2011, NBC and other news outlets reported a scheme that U.S. presidential candidate Rick Perry, then governor of Texas, had concocted in 2003 to take out life insurance policies on retiring public school teachers through the Swiss firm UBS. This is just talking about before it went down. The rationale behind Perry's indecent proposal: these senior citizens had a high statistical probability to die within the next decade, and when they did, the government of Texas could turn a profit. So your job getting life insurance on you, and you thinking, oh, I pay $2 a month for my life insurance at my job. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about your family. They're using that as a tax write-off. You know how I know? Because I sell it to businesses. I go to businesses and I say, hey, can I teach you a way to attract and retain quality employees? Well, let me set you up with a life insurance structure, either a Section 162 executive bonus plan or a split dollar collateral assignment like Michigan University did with Jim Harbaugh from 2016 to 2000. What did he work there for? 7 years? Or like Turning Point USA did for fucking Charlie Kirk. He had a $24 million death benefit from Turning Point USA. So stop diminishing life insurance, because these big fucking companies don't diminish life insurance. But especially, listen, the average American only inherits about $168,000 through life insurance. Because I'll be quite frank, life insurance people aren't in the business of helping the average motherfucker. We're in the business of keeping rich people rich. So we say shit to the average motherfucker like, buy term and invest the rest. Invest in this. You don't have the fucking liquidity to invest in this shit. Did you know that cash value life insurance can act as your dividends trading manager or your options trading desk? Right? These are things that you don't know. They buy an institutional part of Index Universal Life, and a whole lot of life insurance agents don't know this. We hear what's going on, which is why a lot of insurance agents fuck up you guys' policy. The way that, I'm sorry, they act as your bond desk manager. Pardon me, I said that incorrectly. So how does cash value life insurance accrue or derive the money for your cash value? Well, they invest heavily in bonds. Now you'd say, well, why would I let them do it when I can do it myself? Because if you can put $1 million a day into the bond market, the life insurance company can put $1 million a minute into the bond market. Okay? And I use those big ass numbers to let you know there ain't no fucking way you're competing with an institutional investor. Because how many minutes are in a day? Well, the insurance company can put $1 million a minute, while you can only put $1 million a day. And your average American can't put $1 million in a lifetime inside of most investment vehicles, especially not bonds. So then when they get the return on the bonds, if it's a participating whole life, because whole life insurance pays dividends, then they pay some of the dividend, they keep some in their general account, and then they put some in a separate account. They also put some in an options account. Why? Because that's where the money is derived for Index Universal Life. Again, a lot of cash value life insurance agents don't know this. You can ask them, hey, where's the money for my cash value life insurance derived? The premiums. Run away. Where's the money for the index crediting on my Index Universal Life insurance derived? The premium. Run away. So what happens is after the insurance company collects their profit from the bonds. They don't touch any of your money for trading options. They then trade options, again, in tranches. So if you can trade as a pattern day trader, according to FINRA, the $25,000 margin minimum, and then go ahead and do that, they can do that every second, $25,000 a second, right? So you just can't compete with them in the scale. So they get bigger amounts for cheaper. Imagine you go to Costco's, BJ's, Sam's Club. When you buy in bulk, the more you buy, the less it costs. Overall, yes, you might pay more dollars for buying 100 steaks than buying one steak. But if you calculate it down, when you calculate those 100 steaks versus that one steak, you ended up paying more money out of your pocket for that one steak than for one steak in the equivalent to that pack of 100 steaks. Right? So buying in bulk saves you money. So now when they purchase those options, if the option should accrete or go up or win that trade, they give some of that to you in the form of an index credit. Should it fail or dilute, salute broke genius, should it fail or dilute, that's not your money, that's not your premium, that's not your cash value, that's not your death benefit. Now, variable universal life is a different story. I digress. Let me continue with what we were doing here. So, because I want to get to the fixed and variable expenses. So, these senior citizens had a high statistical probability to die within the next decade, and when they did, the government of Texas could turn a profit. Now, Michael Moore, oh, you know what? I need to tag my man Liddell in this too. I'll get to that later. I'll do that next. So, Michael Moore examines a similar practice in his 2009 documentary, Capitalism, A Love Story, through the devastating revelation that a number of Fortune 500 companies, you ready for this? Including Bank of America, Citibank, McDonnell Douglas, Hershey, Nestle, Walmart, Procter & Gamble, and American Express have made use of what industry insiders call COLI, corporate-owned life insurance policies, more commonly known as dead peasant or janitor's insurance policies. So, ladies and gentlemen, since FINRA is expected to change this, the PDT, no, they're not going to change that margin minimum. They wouldn't bring it that low because of something called an SAR, broke genius. An SAR is a suspicious activity report. Think of it as when you travel, we've always had the fact that you can't travel without with more than $10,000. Now, what you may be talking about is the cash account and the cash settlement. They're supposed to lower that from settling in 2 days to settling in 1 day. But if you execute 4 or more trades in a 5-day period, you're considered a pattern day trader, and you have to adhere to the minimum 25K minimum. So, yeah, and I'm only saying that, bro, I was a stockbroker for a short period of time. I don't tell people that because, you know, it is what it is. But when Daniel L. Johnson died of cancer, Moore tells us Amity Bank made more than $5 million on policies that had taken out in his name that were never shared with his dependents. So what happens is a lot of rappers got that insurance, that COLI, right? Why do you think around October, around corporate tax filing season, those rappers get knocked off? Think about it. You get your rap kid, your Young Dolph, right? And we're going to look at a rapper in here in a second. Your Young Dolph. Your young Julio or whatever his name is, right? You drank the Kool-Aid. You got your rap kit, right? And now your album goes double plastic. Oh, he's gone. Pop Smoke is out of there. You think the insurance company didn't have an insurable interest to get a COLI policy on you? Doesn't matter if it's term or whole life. It's likely going to be term because all they got to do is put a 20-year term on you. That costs them less dollars, and they spend, I don't know, $1,000 a month, get a $10 million policy on you, $20 million policy on you, $50 million policy on you. And they say, well, we gave him $1 million. We expect him to recoup, $14 million every year off of these album sales and da-da-da-da. He went double wood. Here's $50,000. Go take him out. Oh, latest rapper slain. But in his hood, yeah, we need to collect that. So let's see. Right? So again, and this is just a regular guy at a bank. When he died, Amity Bank made more than $5 million on policies that taken out his name that were never shared with his dependents. So I'm going to skip a few paragraphs. I want to go here. Amidst these casual factors, it's worth noting that scholarly and I'm going to share, you know what, let me share the link in the chat so you can read the entire article. You know me, I don't hide nothing. But I want to get to the expenses. Amidst these casual factors, it is worth noting that scholarly explanations about the historical emergence of life insurance typically overlook the business of insuring slaves, which had become a robust domain of commercial traffic by the 1830s. This oversight stems from too narrow an analytic framework. Slave insurance was property insurance, real estate, more specifically, in places like New Orleans, as Negroes did not have judicial status as legal persons until the formal abolition of slavery in the U.S. in 1865. And yet, in slave insurance policies, human chattel was priced not according to the physical stature, as has often been the assumption. Instead, prices were based on the enslaved person's skill set. Artisans like blacksmiths, workers with highly coveted expertise like coal miners, and those who excelled in especially dangerous industries like railroads commanded the highest dividends. Right? This means slave insurance was more like life insurance than historians have ever been wanted to acknowledge. Give me 1 second here. I'll check that in a second. One second, guys. So, this means that slave insurance was more like life insurance than historians have been wanting to acknowledge. It also means that slave insurance foreshadowed postbellum genres of corporate insurance, as owners of capital sought to shield themselves against the risk associated with the loss of an individual's capacity for labor. Now, you mentioned life insurance. That's why, I mean, rappers getting this kind of life insurance. That's why I want to go to this. So because it is intimately connected to our capacity to find relief from illness or injury, since it is bound up in our ability to earn an income, and with the fate of our closest kin, insurance, namely life insurance, has, since the industrial age, helped people to measure the distance from familiar modes of mutual aid. These formal structures of financial assistance continue to provide a language through which people comment on social mobility. Get this. ICE insured, fuck life insurance. Oh, says rapper Rick Ross. Hold up. ICE insured, fuck life insurance. Oh, the boss. I'm moving cocaine. The boss. Oh, my beard. I'm a fat nigga on Ozempic. Oh, the boss. I don't need no life insurance. Your fucking label has life insurance on you, you fucking doofus. Oh, the boss. Oh, yeah, nigga. I insured my ICE. Oh, fuck life insurance. Oh, sounding like a fucking clown, and we wonder why black people don't get taken seriously throughout the business world, because we got fuckheads like this who we look up to. Guess who? New York Life is where Jay-Z has his life insurance. Guess how I know? Because whilst I was in New York at a company called Aflac, I stumbled across a business called Buffalo Boss, which is part owned by Jay-Z. Hold on 1 second. Yes, mother.
Evening, I'm just checking in on y'all.
I'm doing well. I am on live if you want to tune in. I will. Okay, all right, I will send you the link.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. 1 second, y'all. Let me send my mother the my link to my all right. So where was I? ICE insured, fuck life insurance. Oh, athletes too, yes. But athletes, ironically enough, I used to go to places like the Barclays Center when I lived in Brooklyn to the NBA draft. But you know what's fucking hilarious? The athletes all ran away. I never landed a ball, or I got some dudes who might have played overseas for a year or two, but now they're back talking about, would you like fries with that? You have a higher chance of getting rich off of the lotto than you do becoming a fucking professional athlete in the big leagues, in the big American leagues, NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, WNBA. But ICE insured, fuck life insurance. Oh, says the rapper Rick Ross, right? Who borrowed his stage persona from a notorious narcotics trafficker by the same name in Live Fast, Die Young, as he asserts that his jewelry is more valuable and thus more worthy of securitization than his own life. Right? So, taking my cue from the question of what it means for one person to have a commercial interest in another person's life, this essay uses the under-theorized relationship between slave insurance and life insurance to chart the politics of stratification in the modern age. After all, the same period which witnessed the demise of formal enslavement saw the debut of structures that protected the privilege of people whose wealth and power threatened to come undone. This would include sharecropping and convict leasing. Despite a similar emphasis on institutionalizing credit-debt relations, insurance appears benign by comparison. Even though insurance agencies assign differential value to human lives, the birth of insurance is frequently seen along, with the triumph of capitalism and democracy as a part of the birth of freedom. In what follows, I explore how this paradox defined the dialectical emergence of industries for slave insurance and life insurance, and, by extension, categories of social belonging and forms of economic and political participation in the antebellum and post-antebellum U.S. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I do want to go through some very important parts. Again, I'll put the link in the chat. Let me drop this down. I'll put the link in the chat so you can read the article, because this isn't really about the article. It's more about the next thing that I want to bring to you guys. Right, so as you'll notice here, there's some Mississippi stuff. Negroes are thriftless, thoughtless people, and have to be restricted in many points essential to their constitutions and health. Left to themselves, they will overeat, walk half the night, sleep on the ground, out of doors, anywhere. Thus, the unrestricted slave ceases to become an asset and becomes a liability, even if it's not the relation between assets and liabilities, but the very notion that value can adequately be assessed this way, which defines capitalism as a pervasive social logic. Since the Negro is thoughtless, it is impossible to account for him outside the purview of modern capital. Neither his intellect nor his constitution bears any resemblance to white male Southern planters, to the citizens who govern Southern politics. Politics. In a brief moment of reflexivity, our Mississippi planter confesses his own prior frustration in presuming that he could tell beforehand when Negroes would be sickly. So that's not the part I want to find here. In the same issue of the Commercial Review, the famed scientist Josiah C. Nott, best known for his 1854 publication, Types of Mankind, or ethnological researches based upon the ancient monuments, paintings, sculptures, and crania of races, and upon their natural, geographical, philological, and biblical history, which he co-wrote with the American Egyptologist George L. R. Glidden, and which he featured illustrations by the American physician and craniometrist Samuel George Morton, with additional contributions by the paleontologist Louis Agassiz, contributed to an ongoing conversation the journal had been having about marine and fire insurance, but not as concerned to set forth the advantages of life insurance. Nothing Not insists is more uncertain than human existence. All right. Not uses the term life. So let's actually read this. Yet, if it is more prone to peril, life insurance likewise possesses unprecedented promise to generate prosperity for individuals and nations who are prudent enough to capitalize on this new security, both in the sense of safety and with reference to the new mode of finance and investment. Mind you, securities were around prior to this. He says, diving into history. I love it. Yes, Mr. Ford, you'll definitely enjoy this article. Feel welcome to take that article. I may drop the link shortly to allow people to come up for a little bit of a dialogue. I kind of like to do that. Generally, I don't like to go too much longer than an hour, but there's a few things I want to talk about. So both in the sense of safety and it's just ironic that they call it a security. And if you're in this industry, we already understand the difficulty of that. Not uses the term life insurance to explore a broad range of valuation, including the prospect of insuring free or colored African Americans. He also confesses in passing to having assessed the value of slaves in his capacity as a medical examiner. It is a telling comparison in a discussion about life insurance, because slave insurance has never been systematically analyzed alongside life insurance in the historical scholarship. Often, the link between slavery and insurance centers on marine insurance or slaves as cargo. Elsewhere, the scholarship notes that life insurance companies raise the question of whether to offer policies to free and enslaved African Americans, but generally omits them from discussion after insurance firms made the decision not to take Black clients. Even when historians of life insurance discuss slave insurance, they restrict it to a separate category of valuation without considering the theoretical payoff that might derive from complicating the boundary between Negro property and legal persons, especially since the insured value of a slave was not based on physical stature, nor even the capacity to breed, which became especially significant in the U.S. between the abolition of the slave trade in 1808 and the abolition of slavery in the 1860s. So, as I mentioned above, slaves insured for the highest amounts were artisans with privileged skill sets, like blacksmiths, or those who worked in especially dangerous industries like mining or on steamboats, making slave insurance an early version of corporate or industrial insurance. It's not quite workman's compensation. If not quite workman's compensation. Let me just check the chat here. Okay, we're good. So before I continue, does anybody have anything? Well, I'm sure you guys will chime in. Please feel welcome to chime in. I don't want to feel as if I'm reading at y'all. I want to make sure that we're interacting together. Excuse me. These dynamics were acute in the commercial history of New Orleans, which became the nation's leading slave market in the decades following the Louisiana Purchase of 1804. In shipping slaves to the Lower South, planters usually sent them by steamboat down and around the East Coast from the Chesapeake Bay, port cities like Baltimore, or down the Mississippi River from Midwestern cities in Ohio, Indiana, or Illinois. And to mitigate the potential hazards associated with transport, the potential of a ship capsizing or being overtaken by privateers and pirates, planters routinely took out insurance policies on their slaves. Now, again, this is very similar to what we read earlier, folks, in the COLI policies, the corporate-owned life insurance, right? So these are things that people are getting from their jobs today. And this isn't just Black people. Again, statistics show the average inheritance from a life insurance policy is $168,000. Yet across America, again, I'm focusing specifically on Blacks because this is Black History Month and I'm a Black guy, but America has this thing for talking about generational wealth. If we go to Google and ask Google how many years is a generation, it says between 20 and 30 years. If we go to Google and ask Google what is the average annual income of an American, they'll say as of Q4 2024 was $65,470. 65,000 times 20 is $1.3 million. So your average everyday American to leave one generation of generational just making it, or $65,000 a year for 20 years, needs a $1.3 million death benefit. This is why when you work with insurance professionals or financial professionals like myself, or like Mr. Ford here, he's also a financial professional. Yes, I'm shouting out the competition, but we're elite, so we collaborate, we don't compete. And that's what I've been saying all the time. Elites, we collaborate, we don't compete because we're elite, right? And so what happens is, I don't know, do you have a wrench, Deontay? You don't. I need to get you a wrench so you can put hyperlinks in the chat, etc. Give me a second. Let me get you a wrench here. Oh, Liddell's going soon. Live soon. I gotta make sure to tune in to him as well. Every once in a blue, I make sure to tune into my guy. Where's my chat? D-Blade 4. Let's get him a wrench. Add as moderator. We'll put managing moderator like Rob. All right. So now we're going to get back into the article. And Mr. Ford, you should be able to put your channel link in there. He's a wealth of knowledge, right? He and I can just sit and talk for hours about our finances or our careers, right? In the field that we're in. And the difficulty of being on this social media stuff is that it's highly difficult because you have so many people who are blithering back and forth, but they're not able to do things like have conversations with other elite financial professionals. So what happens is while we're having these conversations, we're making each other better. And all that does is it makes it, hold on, let me make sure I'm on screen for this. It makes it concrete for you, the consumer, right? Ladies and gentlemen, you know, all the time when I had Dave Kinder on here, I've had him come actually on my panel, but I also have him when he does the financial advocacy podcast. I restream that to the audience. Quiet is kept. I didn't want to say too much, but there's some things going on in the future that you guys might like that might change the way that I stream the financial advocacy podcast. Let's continue. So comparing slave insurance to life insurance underscores the tension between concrete and abstract views of what it meant to be a human being in the 19th century U.S. This unsteady dialectic likewise underscores the role that risk plays as a historically produced and institutionally regimented genre of ad hoc classification that masquerades as universal. In applications dated to 1841, the National Safety Life Insurance and Trust Company of Pennsylvania promoted services for white persons and slaves. Despite the jurisdictional differences that obtained between these two groups as persons protected under the law and as property, respectively. National Loan and Life Insurance Company of London, aka Lloyd's of London, offered insurance as a method by which slave owners may be protected from loss, but did not apparently categorize it as a separate entity called slave insurance. Even when these firms specified that the value of policies for whites would be based upon different modes of valuation, it is clear that these systems of calculation overlap and intersect. In fact, policies like those the Baltimore Life Insurance Company used, which spelled out the age range for which whites would be covered, as in no insurance over 62 years of age or under 8, provoke comparisons with slave insurance expectancies, since planters would often use the same applications to purchase insurance for themselves and their property. Meanwhile, mortality rates were so high for planters in 18th century Jamaica that insurance companies would not even permit them to take policies out on their own lives, even when it was easy to insure their slave cargo. Check the chat here, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. With that being said, let's continue. In November 1847, Knott published an article entitled Statistics of Southern Slave Plantation. Give me 1 second here, guys. Statistics of Southern Slave Populations, hereafter SSSP. In the commercial review, noting that 6 months prior he had made reference only to the white population, but would now, in compliance with a request from the editor, deliver a few remarks on the value of life among the colored population, which he notes is becoming a very important subject for consideration. Knott found the dearth of information on the statistics of blacks to be positively disreputable, and worried that insufficient information did not seem to prevent some insurance companies from going into the slave insurance business pell-mell without knowing anything of the probabilities their economic projections would necessarily involve. Most life insurance companies decided that slaves presented too great a challenge as a risk factor and avoided offering slave insurance altogether, leaving a few firms to dominate the industry, so that after starting with a policy for a slave named Jacob in 1831, the Baltimore Life Insurance Company would go on to corner the market on slave insurance. In his November 1847 article, Knott unearths a tension between concrete and abstract notions of embodied risks that he must resolve if he is to convince his audience about the virtues of insurance and prevent North Atlantic firms from continuing to see the South as somehow inherently debilitated, even as he praises insurance for helping to secure commercial futures. Knott must grapple with the fact that Southerners like himself faced higher rates based on the notion that men of this region have weaker vital statistics. To combat this idea, he cites flaws in the actuarial paradigm of medical statistics on which the industry relies. A company may work admirably for a few years and eventually wind up disastrously. Several hundred or several thousand badly selected lives may go on smoothly for several years, but if these policies are badly selected, a heavy loss must follow. This is precisely why Knott would be such a staunch advocate of investing in slaves. It appeared to him to be more sure. So, buy term and invest the difference. Insurance firms would use the same logic to deny coverage to African Americans once slavery was legally abolished, that the lives of free blacks were somehow more difficult to assess than slaves. Meanwhile, Knott tried to distinguish slaves and colored people from the Deep South from those of the Atlantic states, which he viewed as physically and morally inferior, citing a pedigree which included French and Spanish colonial influences. Knott saw Negroes from the Deep South as somehow more refined, which he translated into a more reliable work ethic and fidelity to planters. This characterization perhaps stemmed in part from a broader concern to counteract a prevailing North-South dichotomy of civilization, which surfaced in tandem with the rise of Northern interest in breaking with plantation slavery in favor of new strategies for investment, even if regional economies remained tethered in ways that evaded popular commentary. Knott's critique of the burgeoning industry for life insurance in the U.S. derived from his sense that firms had essentially imported a North Atlantic view of the industry that read the South as a region apart. In his words, all life insurance companies in the United States north of the Potomac are nearly all the writers on vital statistics all life insurance companies of the United States are north of the Potomac, as are nearly all the writers on vital statistics. And we are satisfied that a want of local information and personal observation have led them into many grave errors respecting our condition at the South. Roughly 20 to 21% of U.S. households received an inheritance or a significant gift from a family at some point in their life. A statistical fact related to the statement you made earlier. Absolutely, I appreciate that. So, by the last few decades of the 19th century, with the consolidation of the U.S. nation state in the aftermath of the Civil War, insurance firms would finally be persuaded not to charge white Southerners higher premiums for life insurance. The industry for slave insurance, meanwhile, evaporated once African Americans had been legally freed from bondage. And yet, insurance companies would now charge African Americans higher rates for life insurance than their white counterparts, basing premiums on the cultivated expertise of medical examiners like Knott, who continued to use vital statistics as their guide for life expectancies without acknowledging that Black life expectancies were half that of white Americans by the time that slavery was abolished. And I believe the first company to do that was Prudential. Even Black life insurance companies, as firms competing within the same industry, saddled Black clients with differential rates of coverage based on the same ostensibly objective medical assessment, confirming the worst fears of some African American intellectuals and activists. The renowned African American sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois worried that Black life insurance firms would mean the official demise of the mutual aid societies that African Americans had formed during the context of enslavement in the U.S. to pool economic resources and to ensure the proper burial of deceased friends and relatives in the event of fatal accidents. A pervasive tradition in which groups like New Orleans social aid and pleasure clubs see themselves as being self-consciously engaged even today. So today, ladies and gentlemen, what do we see that as? We see that as GoFundMe. Now, the problem is, if we're supposed to be bliggity black and want all this Black-owned stuff, then why would we give our money to GoFundMe, which takes a large chunk? That's not a mutual thing. There used to be a point in time where churches in Black America did that, but then they took the 501c3 status, which stripped away them being able to actually offer financial literacy in the church, because then they'd be stripped away of their tax-exempt status. Let's continue. In the words of Sylvester Francis, amateur archivist of the New Orleans Backstreet Cultural Museum, these organizations began during the 1830s and 1840s as an early form of life insurance. In 1898, Du Bois, then a professor at Atlanta University, edited a report based on the proceedings of the Third Conference for the Study of Negro Problems, which his institution had hosted on May 25th and May 26th of that year. This publication capped a 3-year, 3-part research investigation, an inquiry concerning the mortality of Negroes in cities. In 1896, another into the general social and physical condition of 5,000 Negroes living in selected parts of certain southern cities. In 1897, and now an examination of efforts Negroes had been making to better their social condition. It is in this context that Du Bois confesses a long-standing fear that the birth of Black life insurance firms would spell the official demise of mutual aid societies formed as indigenous mechanisms of security during the context of enslavement, and would also lead newly emancipated African Americans to be exploited by insurance firms. As he argues in his 1898 report, Negroes should emphatically, what's going on here? What did I just get the email about? Okay. Negroes should be emphatically warned against unstable insurance societies conducted by irresponsible parties and offering insurance for small weekly payments, which really amount to exorbitant rates. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, we had Black academia who, and hopefully my man Rael will come into this chat, because D. Blade Ford, you and Rael will agree. But this is why things like life insurance ended up being passe in the Black community, or taboo, right? This is why we often rely on GoFundMe or donations from people or fish fries. But think about the fact that while you're getting that small donation from everybody for this mutual aid, or what West Indians would call a susu, where we're all putting money in, you can just put a small amount in, right? If you put $50, if you put $100 a month away for 10 years, that's $120,000, right? But you got to do that consistently and not touch it for 10 years. And then hopefully you'll put it in an interest-bearing account, because most accounts are giving you 0.0075%. So you're getting an annual percentage yield, that's what APY means, of about 75 cents per year on $100. And that's simple interest. That's not compound. You don't get compound interest from traditional savings accounts. You get simple interest. So when that $100 becomes $100.75, you don't get the interest on that $100.75. You get the interest on that $100. And I think it's 0.05% now. It's gotten lower. And again, these are major banks like your Chase, your Bank of America. I'm sure there's local banks who have HISAs, high yield savings accounts, that are substantially higher, but they're not brick and mortar, and it's probably substantially harder to get your money. So let's continue. In where was I? Yes. So in 1898, Dubois, then Professor. Okay, I read that. I'm sorry. And yet, the plight of the Negro was bound up with that of other marginal constituencies, as evidenced by the state statutes many U.S. states passed between the second half of the 19th century and the first part of the 20th century to regulate their movement. Unsightly beggar ordinances, or ugly laws. So what are ugly laws? Ironically enough, that's something that they kind of do in China now, right? Where you can't be a transient. They're actually doing it in a lot of major cities. They're homeless proofing cities. What do I mean? Have you noticed that park benches are now architecturally being designed where they're uncomfortable? It's hard for you to go out with your wife and kids and sit on a park bench, right? It's not comfortable anymore. They make the metal, they make the design so it's hard to sit on, it thins out. Nobody wants to sit on it. That was to get rid of the transients, right? You could say that America may be going towards the Hunger Games, right? Or a Mad Max style, where you're going to have large super cities that are insulated, and then the transients are just left in the wild. Let's continue. I'm probably going to be going over an hour today, folks. So, as this legislation has been called, lumped a range of social actors together as a menace to U.S. civil society. Sex workers, the homeless, vagrants, newly emancipated slaves, and unemployed persons, many of whom were disabled in emergent industries in the decades before employers were legally required to offer workers compensation. Right? You know what's funny? For example, you know the song Nigger Love a Watermelon. Well, that actually came from the fact that during those times, blacks were actually making quite a bit of money from growing and selling watermelons, because we were barred from, after sharecropping, we were barred from making money. It was illegal to make money that had anything to do with cotton, because we had the expertise in it. So you couldn't do anything that had to do with cotton, whether it be the sale, the refinement, anything of it. Couldn't do it. It was illegal. So started doing watermelon. Watermelon then became illegal. That's why blacks are troped with loving chicken and watermelon. Ironically enough, South Koreans love some fried chicken and watermelon too. Let's continue. So in 1879, New Orleans statute attests to the indeterminacy of the unsightly beggar ordinance, as it sought to create, define, and punish each of the offenses of being an idle and disorderly person, and, of being a rogue and a vagabond, and to provide for the summary trial and punishment of offenders against the provisions of this ordinance, and of the officers and members of the police force for failing and neglecting the duties imposed upon them by this ordinance. Okay. I'm going to skip a little ahead, because I want to I'm probably about to skip to the word security risks, social justice, 20th century warfare, the New Deal. So I want to get to some other stuff. Hold on. I just want to show you guys this. So here are some of the slave insurance policies here. So this is an application for life insurance from Baltimore Life. Question, where were you born? Question, where do you now reside? And what is your condition or employment? Question, are you now in good health? Do you usually enjoy good health, or how otherwise? Right? And the reason I'm skipping ahead because I want to get to something. Has your family been liable to any serious disease as consumption, insanity, scrofula, and I guess I don't know what that last letter is. It just says and C. I'm assuming that means cancer. Question. Have you been at any time affected with insanity, gout, asthma, consumption, scrofula, convulsions, palsy, or any other disease likely to impair your constitution? Have you had any wound, hurt, or serious bodily injury, and what? Have you been vaccinated or had the smallpox? Soon there will likely be a COVID question on life insurance applications. Are you of a sedentary turn or accustomed to much exercise? Let's look at another one. The National Safety Life Insurance and Trust Company. Life insurance for white persons and slaves. Now think about this. This was in the 1800s, and they were doing $250,000 policies. Right? Life insurance, white persons upon the mutual system. I can't particularly read the rest of that. I'll have to increase the screen. Hold on. So you've got your medical examiner, your directors of the insurance companies. Insurances will be affected on the lives of slaves for a period of 1 to 7 years, right? You would buy that policy, and then you would invest the rest in more slaves. And so it only went for a certain term, and then the rest was invested in more slaves. Pretty crazy, right? Show you guys one more thing, two more things here. So we have another one. No clue what year this is, but a method by which slave owners may be protected from loss. National Loan and Life Assurance Company of London, Lloyd's of London, capital $2.5 million. Local board of directors in the city of New York. A slave policy, Virginia, North Carolina, Richmond, Peterson, Pleasantville, Charleston, Shepherdtown, Martinburg, Lynchburg, Suffolk, Charleston, Alexander, Norfolk, then the towns in North Carolina. Insurances on the lives of persons not slaves, according to the company's pamphlet, which pamphlets can be obtained gratis at any of the agencies. In future, insurance will be affected on the lives of the slaves, approved of by our medical examiners after personal examinations, whose fee, $2 for such examination, is paid by the company. Now, why is that important? Because in life insurance today, you still get that. That's, again, to what I spoke of earlier in Coley, when rappers are getting policies on them. I have a Colombian music group contract that says in order for you to get this rap kit for your chain and your Bugatti and your iced out golds, you have to agree to taking a paramed exam. We're going to pay for it. Don't worry about it. You have to take out life insurance. We're going to pay for it. Don't worry about it. And the reason they have to tell you is because insurable interest, but you have to actually give, consent to be insured once you're above 15 years old. So the employee, or in this case, the rapper, says, yeah, nah, my record label got life insurance on me. My family good. It's just like I knew the rapper Mo 3. I knew another gentleman by the name of Classic Music, CLASSIKMUSSIK from North Texas. Was very close with Mo 3. When I spoke to him, he said Mo 3 owns his masters. He's good. It's great that he owns his masters, but not many people outside of Texas are bumping Mo 3 today. Now, he'll make some money because his music will circulate in Texas. There's some people there, but everybody's moved on to Big X the Plug now. Yella Beezy. Nobody's looking for Mo 3. So those masters may be worthless, but that life insurance would have definitely held them down. Let's see. And then you have slave premiums. So there were different premiums. And then there's some end notes, right? Rick Ross, Live Fast, Die Young. Parajak and Kanye West present good music, good ass mixtape. 2, thus in what follows, I am less interested in comparing different movements than exploring what each has to offer and how they might be combined to address other forms of social stratification. 2004, Durham Duke University. This was, what was this? For more, this was written by Tom Mertes. A movement of movements in another world reality. Is another world really possible? And then there's another publication. Let's see. For more explicit effort to theorize diverse genres of social stratification, see Nicholas DeGenova and Natalie Putz, the deportation regime, sovereignty and space, and the freedom of movement. Durham Duke University Press, 2010. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to bring up the next screen. And let's share that now. Hold on. Let me share the next screen. Okay. And this is something that a gentleman was sharing the other day on my TikTok page. And this is something called a budget organizer. So we'll just say prepared for social media insurance, bro. Right? Provided by Alonzo Hall of ADH Wealth Solutions, an affiliate of CG Wealth Solutions Group. There's my contact info. There's our office. So he was talking about fixed and variable expenses. And when you're sitting down with a financial professional such as myself, such as Deontay, you're going to get something to the effect of this. Right now, I do charge a fee, and my fee ranges, especially because of my credentials. So that's part of why I got the credentials, so I can legally charge a fee, right? So you have different licensure that allows for things like this, right? So now we're looking at what goes into some of those things that matter to you. Because why does this matter? I get this all the time when I sit down with people and talk to them about life insurance. Alonzo, what does any of this have to do with me getting some life insurance? I just want a $100,000 policy. Oh, you do? Okay, well, we're looking at your expenses. We're looking at your fixed and your variable expenses. The reason why is because it makes a difference. Let's say your mortgage is $3,000 a month. That's $36,000 a year right there. Let's say your property taxes are $77 a month. That's $924 a year. That's actually low. Let's say they're $125 a month, right? $1,500. That's still low. It's generally going to be closer to between $200 and $700 a month, depending on where you live. Homeowners and renters insurance. Let's call that $77 a month. No, let's call that $98 a month, or $1,176 a year. So these are your fixed expenses. These are things that aren't going to change. $250 per month. Are you talking about the homeowners or the property taxes? Property taxes, yeah, more. I'm going to be closer to $250 per month. Yeah, I'm trying to keep these numbers really low for a reason. Car payment. The average car payment is $700. The average car payment is $700, right? So now I live in Connecticut. If you live in a town like New Haven, yeah, maybe your property taxes are closer to, if depending on the part of New Haven, it could be closer to $125. But if you live in like Fairfield, Glastonbury, Cos Cob, places like that, it's going to be substantially more expensive. So let's be conservative and say 250, right? So again, $3,000 a year. That's close to, yeah, because it's going to be close to 1 month's mortgage payment. $700. Car insurance is fairly expensive these days. If you're paying $700 a month, you got to have full coverage. We'll say $550 a month, which is very low for a lot of people. Parking. So a lot of people don't have parking spaces if they rent. I'm sorry, they don't have covered parking, etc. if they rent. If you own in a place like New York City, you may still be renting your parking space. We're going to assume that you're not paying for parking, but things like tolls, maybe you're spending $30 a month on tolls. Credit card payments. What is the average credit card debt? It's around 60,000. So let's say $4,000 a month on credit card payments. Personal loans. We're going to assume personal loans. I believe they have student loans in here. Do they? Do they have student loans? No, they don't have student loans. Okay. So we'll consider personal loans student loans, right? So maybe you pay $800 a month on student loans, right? $9,600. So let's see. If I just whip out the calculator really quickly, right? Let's just pull up my calculator. I don't think you guys are going to be able to see the calculator, but that's totally fine. I have no need to lie about the numbers, and you guys are looking at the numbers. Well, actually, I can scroll down here to the bottom. Right now, I just want a $100,000 life insurance policy. Right now, you're spending $9,400 a month, and we haven't gone through all of your fixed expenses. You're spending $103,000 a year. I'm good. I got a $100,000 policy at my job. I'm going to leave my family generational wealth. You see why it's very important to sit down with professionals like us? So let's say life insurance premiums. Let's say you have a term policy and you're paying $75 a month, right? $900 a year. Disability insurance. Let's say you're paying $14 a month because you have it at work. Let's say health insurance you're paying, that's going to be expensive. Let's say $370 a month. Dental vision, we're going to say $60 a month, right? We're not going to put the taxes up. Childcare expenses. $1,200 a month is the average. Let's say you have 2 kids. $30,000. Where are we at now? We're almost at $120,000. Education expenses. Well, let's say you're saving up for 529. That's not going to go in here. That's going to go elsewhere. But if you have school expenses, right? So maybe you send your child to a private school. So, for example, let's say you send them to Choate. That's $74,000 a year. What is that? Like $6,600 a month? That's a little less. $6,300 a month. Okay, $6,250. Right, so 74.4 at $6,250. Household help. Let's say you don't have any. Let's say professional dues are $100 a month. Right, you belong to some kind of association or you're affiliated with something. Right, savings, investments. Now, the average American doesn't have a bunch of money that they're saving or investing, but let's assume that you are. So let's say we do $200 a month. Education savings. So this is where you're putting money away for your child's 529. Let's say you're putting $250 a month away for that. Right? Now, we haven't even looked at what your annual income is, right? Are you saving for retirement? Let's say you're saving in your IRA but you're not your IRA. You're maxing. Let's say you're putting 5,000 out. Well, you can't put. Let's say you're putting $500 a month in your IRA. Let's say $1,000 a month, $500 a month in your IRA, and $500 a month in your 401k. So altogether, you're spending $20,097 on expenses, and a lot of people. And I didn't even put in the taxes. I'm skipping that. And these are fixed expenses, so these are things that aren't changing. So automatically, you're looking at $250,000 annual income household. Now let's look at variable expenses, things like utilities, right? Those are going to change. So let's say on average it's $300 a month, right? But it could change. It can go up or down. Telephone and internet. Let's say on average that's $360 a month, right? It can go up or down depending on use. Home repair and maintenance. Let's do $250 because that can go up and down. Household goods and furnishings. Let's say 0. Fuel, that can vary because you might have to take longer trips, right? And then it also varies on the type of gas you get, what gas costs where you are, and the type of vehicle you have. Let's say $177 a month on gas. That's very low, but let's just say that. Auto repair and maintenance. Let's see. I just got an oil change on my car that cost me $200. But you're not going to do that every month. So we'll do $200, right? Because it's going to change. You're going to have some months where it doesn't. Let's go closer to $400. Again, parking you're not going to have. Food and personal care. Well, that's going to vary, but let's see. The average grocery store trip is what? For a family of 2, it's about $450 a week. Right? So let's say about $2,000 a month. Right? Clothing, let's say $150 a month. All right, let's say $100 a month. Laundry and dry cleaning, let's say 0 because we have our own washer and dryer. Doctor, dental, prescription drugs, let's do $550. Charitable gifts and contributions, let's say nothing. Let's say $10 a month. We'll do that. Entertainment, cable or satellite TV. We're gonna ignore that because we have that on telephone and internet, and generally you can bundle them. But let's unbundle it and say $42 a month. Dining out. How much do you think it costs to dine out? And how often do you do it? And this is why, especially in places like the mating and dating and relationship field, this is highly important. Because this is something that, and again, so Deontay or D. Blade Ford is very much one who mentions, I got to come on camera for this. He mentions something that I've mentioned a lot, which is stewardship. I think he drives that point home substantially harder than I do. But one of the things that I've said when I came into the mating, dating, relationship, red pill, manosphere space, whatever you want to call it, is that you guys out here running around willy-nilly dating shouldn't be too concerned about what a woman says in terms of how much you need to be spending on the date. Because one of the first few dates, maybe not the first date, but if you're going to date 3, 4, and 5, you need to be coming to here with a financial advisor. You need to also have a budget for your dining out, your entertainment. Look, there's literally a budget for dining out, $250. Boom. Movies and sporting events, maybe that's $125, right? Babysitter, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you do. $1,200. Let's do $300. Right? Hobbies. People have hobbies, right? Maybe they want to fix up their car or something crazy. Let's say $110 a month, right? And if we add that with vacation and travel, right? You're not going to spend a bunch of money on travel, but when you do, like every month, but if you average it out, we'll say $750 a month because you're going to spend a large amount on your total trip, right? It was about $3,000 for me and my wife to go from here to Alabama because we went to the Floribama Shore for her family reunion. Right? So this is $68,688. So when we combine both our personal expenses and our variable expenses, totally we're spending $25,000 a year. A month. Annually, we're spending almost $310,000. What's going on, Jason? And so these are things that happen with many, many Americans. Now we can also get to business expenses, right? Fixed and variable. But I don't want to get into that in this video. We'll get into that in the next video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop the link for maybe another 10 minutes to allow people to come up if they'd like to say something. Like I said, I'm going to go briefly for maybe another 10 minutes, but I do want to allow anybody who wants to come up and speak. You don't have to come on camera. I will ask that before I bring you on stage, you verify that you're an actual person on camera, but you don't have to be on the stage on camera. Other than that, I'm going to get ready to have us in some music and end the stream. Give me a second here. So it looks as if nobody is coming up. So I appreciate everybody for watching. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, the insurance junkie, your fiduciary fella, the all-star advisor, Alonzo Hall, your social media insurance bro and registered financial consultant. And I've just whapped and tapped on your head with a Black history lesson that you've never learned. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an evaluation of your own, the links are in the description of this video. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, wipe ass. Work in progress every day and see success. Wipe ass. Work in progress every day and see success. Wipe ass. Work in progress every day and see success. And remember, folks, when people challenge you, they don't challenge you to challenge you, but they challenge you to challenge you. Accept the challenge. Salute, 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 salute.